not defensive about it. Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another live show. Big up to everyone that's locked in. Make sure you smash out the like, subscribe if you're new around here. All of that good stuff. And tonight we're going to be discussing Newcastle's start to the season. We'll be talking midfields, Chelsea's midfield, Newcastle's midfield, who's got the best midfield in the Premier League, and of course the race for the Champions League. Can Newcastle break into the top four potentially? Are Chelsea in a race for the top four? Are they kind of there on their own, and 5th, 6th, 7th are going to be battling it out for that final spot? But Pete, great to catch up with you again, mate. It feels like it's been a while. How's things? You good?
Yeah, man. Yeah, not too bad. Pleasure to come and join you again. Thank you for inviting me on. It should be a good chat. Lots to talk about. And our teams, you would like to think are both fighting for the top end of the table, which is always a nice conversation.
Yeah, it's always a bonus that when you're not having to worry about potentially staying in a division. Mate, I think last time we caught up was in the summer when obviously, you know, at that point, a lot of players were turning Newcastle down. There's the whole Isak situation going on. Start to the season, okay, it's 2 wins from the first 7 games. On paper, that doesn't look great, but it kind of feels like you're slowly starting to find your feet a little bit. Just briefly, are you actually okay with how the summer turned out in the end, given all that went on sort of at the start and the middle of it?
I don't think there'll be a Newcastle fan that will tell you that they're not okay with it, just because it was just an absolute nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare. Honestly, like, considering we signed as many players as we did, we managed to get 6 players in the end, which is a good turnover and exactly the type of turnover we needed in terms of bolstering the squad. But with all the stuff with Alexander Isak, before that, as you mentioned, the rejections of players in the early part of the summer, it was just like energy sapping. Like by the end of it, I was just like done. I'm normally okay with transfers and summer windows, and I was just completely done with it by then. I was like, look, just get me watching football, get me like supporting my club again on a weekend. That's the priority right now. But if I'm being honest, I am happy with the summer. We needed Isak had to go. As much as we bantered it and was talking about if he stayed, we're going to get shit and all the rest of it. We needed him to go, and because of his behaviour. We needed to get a striker in to replace him, and we got Nick Voltemada and Jan Wiese. Obviously, Wiese we haven't seen yet, but we've completely filled the areas that we were desperately needing to fill in terms of the squad. So, like, we needed a better goalkeeper than Dubravka. We got Ramsdale in. We needed a centre back to fight with Shaw. We got Malik Chow in. We needed another midfielder on that left hand side to fight with Joe Linton because Willock wasn't up to standard. We've got Jacob Ramsey. You know, we needed a right winger for the last 3 years. We've got Anthony Elanga. You know, we needed the 2 strikers because Wilson and Isak's gone. We've filled all the positions we needed. So the squad, when all fit, are strong enough to be able to attack this season. So we can't be mad at it, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's fair. I think, like, you know, I suppose when you look at it on the balance, you actually probably got what you needed in the end. It just wasn't the sort of, I suppose, the most enjoyable way of going about it. But start of the season, he picks up a couple wins now. You obviously got the win against Wolves at home and Forest at home. Only 2 wins of the season in terms of the Premier League. Defensively, you seem pretty good, to be honest. I think it's 5 clean sheets in 7. I didn't realise until you put it in one of the chats the other day that Newcastle had 5 clean sheets in 7, which is pretty good going defensively. That partnership with Chow and Botman seems to be, you know, something that could be very decent for a number of years to come, potentially. It's at the other end where there's sort of maybe a few more issues. I know Voltemada's scored, you know, 3 goals so far at St James's Park, which is obviously great for the big lad. But are you surprised by a lack of goals? Are you concerned, or you think that's just something that's going to, you know, sort itself out, you know, once you've played a few more games and stuff?
I'll be honest, it is a concern. It is a concern for Newcastle fans. It was quite clear last season that we were heavily reliant on Alexander Isak. Like, we just were. He scored 27 goals in all competitions. The next one down after that was like Harvey Barnes with 9. Like,
really? Oh, Jesus. So only one player was double figures last season.
Yeah, like the
Oh,
gap.
mad.
I mean, we had a lot of others that scored up near to 10,
Yeah.
but no one got over double figures. So others were contributing, but not to a bigger scale. Like the season previous, when we got Champions League football, we had like Callum Wilson on 18. I think we had like Isaac on 11. We had like one or two other. I think Gordon got 10 or 11 that season. Like we had others that were contributing. So it's a concern for me. And the reason why it's a concern is because I'm worried that like Nick Bolton made a brilliant start to Newcastle. Like I said, scored 4 goals in all competitions already. Like he's looking like he's settling in quite quickly. But I don't want Newcastle United to start hanging our hat on him to score all our goals. Like that, it's not going to work. It's not going to be successful. We need guys chipping in. So look, I'm confident that Johan Wieson, when he's back fit, that he'll contribute with goals. So we've got 2 strikers there that are willing to put the ball in the back of the net and can do it. But for me, the big question mark is our wingers. Our wingers need to contribute more. So I'm looking at Anthony Gordon. Anthony Gordon scored 10 or 11 in his first full season. Brilliant season. Last season, I think he got 6 or 7. Like that's not acceptable.
This fraud, by the way, this guy, right? I checked in on him on Saturday night just to make sure he was feeling all right after the game. Didn't respond to me at all. And then just drops me a message today, pretending the match didn't even happen. Can you do tomorrow at 2? This is a shameless brother.
It wasn't long ago. It wasn't long ago. Don was saying in the chat basically that what was it? Alan Shearer is the greatest striker in Premier League history.
Yeah,
he was singing Newcastle chants. He was doing all of it. He was singing Sesco songs with me.
Do you know? I've done a preview with him, right? I've done a preview with Sam, right, before the Liverpool game. And I was like, I said to him, mate, you better hope there's not a Caicedo screamer in this game. He's like, nah, no chance. And then he smashes one top bins. No, brother, I was worried about you, bro. I was worried about you. I seen you going through a difficult time, and I was being a good guy, just looking out for you. But yeah, don't worry about it. But yeah, obviously, yeah. Look, the wide players is a big thing. We have similar issues with wide players in terms of can we get enough production from the likes of Neto, from the likes of Garnacho, Gittins, these kind of guys. Yeah, for Newcastle, you look at someone like Anthony Elanga. Bro, I looked at the numbers he got last season at Forest. I forgot, actually, it was double figures for both, wasn't it? Goals and assists, I'm pretty sure. Or it was definitely double figure assists, or it might have been like 9 goals, double figure assists.
I think he got something like 17, 18 assists for Forest last season. And I think he got like 7 goals. I think he got like 7 goals in all competitions as well. So you put that together, it's a good turnout.
Yeah.
Tell him to get lost.
He's playing the victim card now. He's being shameless.
Yeah, tell him to get lost and take his rat of a centre forward. And by the way, Hussam, thank you for the 130 million. Thank you very much. Hope he's treating you well. Not.
Oh. But like, what have been your thoughts on Elanga's start to the season? Because I've seen he's been a bit in and out of the team. You know, have you been impressed by what you've seen from him? Has he made a good impact, or is he still finding his feet and it's been a little bit disappointing?
Yeah, I think still finding his feet is, I think, a fair assessment. Nobody's hammering him right now, really. He's had some good games where he's looked really good. Like I went to see him in the preseason friendly against Atletico Madrid. We lost 2-0, but that first half
was that the world-renowned Seller Cup?
Yeah. To be fair, in that first half alone, he probably should have had like 3 assists easily. Like Joelinton missed 3 sitters, and like if he gets three assists on the back of that, because he had that left back, is it Rigeri, who they got from Italy? He had him on toast. He had him on toast. He was destroying him, and he should have had 3 assists. And if he comes off that half with 3 assists, the outlook of how you're looking at Anthony Lang, his confidence levels, you're looking at it completely different. Like, but he's had games where he hasn't quite produced. Barcelona, he was good. He played really well in Barcelona. He was really good away at USG in the Champions League. So he's had some really good games, but he's had some games where he hasn't quite produced. I mean, Forest on Sunday, he was quite poor for the most part. That's probably the first game this season that I've looked at him and gone, kind of needed more from you in that game. All the others have kind of been, he's not really been in the game. He's not really had much of the ball. You can make sort of almost excuses for him, but that on Sunday wasn't quite at the level. And we're going to need him to perform. He's going to have to start racking up some numbers, whether it's goals or assists. I mean, in all fairness to him, he needs the people to put the ball in the back of the net and knock up their assists. He's putting them balls into the box. Some of the deliveries he's got is fantastic, but we need those guys putting the ball in the back of the net for him to notch up those assists. But I need him to contribute with goals too. I need him to get into goal scoring positions. I need him to work the goalkeeper. I'm yet to see that. And as I said, with Anthony Gordon, it's the same. It's the same pattern, cutting inside, playing it into the middle of the park to Bruno. I need him attacking his winger. I need him going down the left. I need him cutting in and whipping in a shot at goal to work the goalkeeper. I'm yet to see that. Gordon scored penalties, which is fine, but I need him to do more. I need him to do more in games. So those were key for me if we're going to rack up enough goals in the league to be able to put ourselves in that position.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, just a couple of other players. Obviously, I know we spoke about Anthony Gordon quite a lot before and how he needs to do more. That was that very good season he had. And then, obviously, he tailed off a little bit last season. Wasn't amazing from him. And then the start of this season has been, from what I've seen, okay. As you said, he's scoring penalties. Well, he's got a couple of penalties in the Champions League the other week. This is a big year for him because he got the new contract in the back pocket. And it almost feels like he's really the most senior. Well, he probably is the most senior attacker at the football club, which sounds a bit mad given he's still quite young. But in terms of how long he's been there and in terms of quality, Alanga's new. Barnes is obviously not quite as good as him. And then you've got Voltemada and whatnot and Jacob Murphy. It's kind of on Gordon almost to not carry the attack as such, but there's a big responsibility there. Do you think he's up to the task?
I think he's doing all the right things to be up for the task. So, for example, he himself, with this Isak situation happening in the summer, he in the interviews was almost saying that he was going to be stepping up, like he was going to be wanting to take that responsibility on, which is why playing up front, he was playing his heart out. He in terms of his work rate, his positioning, his pressing of the ball, it's all great, but he just hasn't got that knack of finishing. Like, I think as a leader, he definitely has the capabilities. Like, he shows it in the way he speaks, the way he kind of holds himself on the pitch. He has that level of responsibility about him. But I just need the final ball. Like, I need the goals. I need the assists. Like, that will put him on a different pedestal. Like, we won't be talking about Anthony Gordon as a nearly guy like he was last season. We'll be talking about him being the guy like he was 2 years ago. I need that Anthony Gordon from 2 years ago back. I do think he's capable of it, but I need to see more from him in terms of his output. That's the key, because that's modern football now. You look at it, where's the GA? Is the GA there to back up his performances? He is doing well in moments, but if you're not putting GA on the table, you're always going to be questioned about whether you are capable of holding down the fort. I believe that he's capable of it at 24 years old. He's still got loads of room to grow as a player, but I just need it now more than ever because we are in a transition. He's an experienced player. He's a player that's already established at the club. He got a contract last year that was befitting of a leadership level player. Yeah. I need to see those performances that are going to back that up. Does that make sense? No,
to be honest, mate, I do really like him, and we were linked with him when he was at Everton when Tuchel was here, and it was 50 mil or whatever they wanted, and it was kind of laughed at. And then he went to Newcastle, he did a decent job. He's sort of thinking, this guy actually, we probably could have done with him. I would have him now over over the likes of Garnacho and Jamie Gittins or whatnot. But yeah, it's big responsibility now. It's time to step up, and it's a big year for him. Obviously, he's playing Champions League football with Newcastle. There's the World Cup in the summer as well. If he can have a really good season, that for me, that spot on the left wing for England is up for grabs. You know, Rashford, Grealish, Gordon. You know, there is a big opportunity on that left wing for him to nail down a starting spot in the World Cup for England. So it's not just that; it's also international stuff as well for him.
Who would you take that right now if you had the choice between those three players? Because I've been saying it on Loaded as well, and I think absolutely spot on. Like there's three players fighting almost for two left wing positions.
Yeah,
he won't take all three to the World Cup. So if you got Gordon, you got Grealish, you got Rashford. If you had to pick two out of that three now, who are you going for?
If I had to pick two out of the if I had to pick two out of the three now on current form, I'll be honest, mate. I would be taking Grealish and Rashford on the current form over Gordon. That's not me saying that they're better players than him necessarily, but right now, Grealish is playing better than Gordon form-wise at the start of the season, and Rashford's actually doing pretty well for Barcelona right now. So you're in a situation where you're almost like, oh, hang on a second, like it feels like weird talking about Gordon not being in the England squad, but though it's not necessarily about him playing badly. It's about the fact I've got to do better than the other guys. Like he can still be playing well, but if those guys are doing better, then you've got a problem.
I agree. At this moment in time, I'll be honest with you. I said to a couple of the Newcastle lads when the England squad was announced, I didn't think he'd be in the squad. I genuinely didn't, because I thought the other two were performing better.
Tuchel just went with the same squad, didn't he?
Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, obviously there was the Foden.
Well, there was a withdrawal from James and O'Reilly went in, but it's the same squad, yeah, as the last break, yeah.
And I looked at it and I just thought he is, in my opinion, he's lucky that he didn't miss out, because that would have been a bit of a wake-up call for him. And it's I almost feel like, from a Newcastle perspective, a selfish point of view, I almost feel like it would have been better for him had he not been picked, because I think that would have given him the kick up the backside to go, I now need to put performances in because I need to be in that squad in November. By being picked now, it's almost, from a Newcastle perspective, as a fan, it's almost kind of Tuchel saying that what he's doing right now is enough. And in Gordon's mind, he might think it's enough, but actually from a Newcastle perspective, it isn't enough. And we need more. So that's kind of where I was with it. And so I do need him to come back. I want him to obviously do well. I'm an England fan. I want England to do well and win every game. I want him to play well when he plays, but I want him to come back and be hitting the ground running. We've got Brighton away first game back. It's
tough game now as well.
Game to go to. I need him fit and firing as is the others, because we need to kick on with the good form we've been in.
Mate, what are you saying about Newcastle this season? Obviously, you want to get Champions League again. The last time, I know we spoke about this a little bit briefly on your show the other night, but last time you were in the Champions League, the league form drastically dropped off. Are you more confident this time round that you've got better squad options, better depth in to rotate and deal with the demands of both competitions and secure a top 4, top 5 finish in the Premier League without having to sacrifice a Champions League campaign? Do you feel you're better positioned this time than you were last time you were in the Champions League?
100%. We are better equipped, and this was the thing that Eddie Howe was adamant about going into this summer. And this is why I wanted to initially do his business early, because he wanted to get his business done early and actually have a full pre-season with the lads. That part didn't necessarily happen, but he wanted all the positions filled so he had a big enough squad so that 2 years ago doesn't happen again. And I believe this squad is better and better equipped to deal with 4 competitions effectively. But obviously the Premier League and the Champions League, back to back. I would say, if I'm looking at this team without injuries, like I'm looking at Wisa being fit, Tino Livramento being fit, Jacob Ramsey being fit.
Lewis Hall as well, yeah.
Wisa hasn't even put on a Newcastle kit to train, let alone kick a ball. So, and Jacob Ramsey
was Wisa signed injured?
No, so he was signed fit. Johan Wisa before this injury hadn't been injured for 4 years.
No,
It was on international duty with Congo. So this is why I've got an issue with Congo. I've called them a bunch of amateurs for the last.
And he's going to be going AFCON with them, isn't he, in December?
Well, there's an update on that, and I'll let you know that in just a second. So basically, what's happened is that he signed for us, and then it was the international break straight after. So he's gone on the international break, and bearing in mind he's not kicked a ball, and in comparison, he's signed for Liverpool, went on international duty and played a total of 15 minutes in over the course of the 2 games.
Yeah.
Johan Wissa, bearing in mind he'd not kicked a ball in pre-season, he played a full match for Congo. He scored, fair enough, but he played a full match. And then they played him a nearly a full match again in the second game. Bearing in mind he's not kicked a ball, and he did his MCL. He was playing on a plastic pitch, horrible pitch. He's done his MCL unopposed, running for the ball, just got his, I think he stood caught up in the plastic turf, and he's done his MCL. Now, that was at 75 minutes. There is not many countries, if any, that would allow a player that's not kicked a ball all summer to play that amount of minutes and go, you know what, we need to look after him. Bring him off and just look after him. He'd scored in the game anyway, right? So he scored in both games, and he actually looked good. We were excited. And then he does that, and he's now... Well, he's already done 4 weeks of the 8, so he's got 4 weeks left to go. I think, interestingly, he'll be back fit in time for when we go away to Brentford. So we're going back to his own club. But this is the issue. Like, it's been an absolute nightmare with Johan Wissa. Now, the update we got from one of our Newcastle journalists, Keith Downey, Sky Sports, yesterday, is that he's basically been told from Johan Wissa's people that he's going to prioritise Newcastle and not Congo.
I was going to sack off the AFCON, maybe.
There's a chance, it's not guaranteed, but there's a chance that he gets up and running fit, and then he starts playing for Newcastle, that he does end up sacking it off, because he has said that he wants to repay Newcastle, because we didn't have to keep fighting for him. We didn't have to pay 55 million for him. He's not worth 55 million.
Oh, no, of course not. No.
Everybody knows that, but we paid that because we wanted the player. We kind of continued to chip away all summer, and he was desperate for the move. So, for me, I've said it. I've said it to the loaded lads. I've said it on our shows. I would want him to sack off AFCON.
Yeah.
I think the way they managed him, I think, has made my mind up that I think he needs to prioritise Newcastle. We paid 55 million for him. He's barely kicked a ball. We'll still have Champions League matches and some key fixtures over that 4-week period from mid-December to mid-January. He played a crucial part in that, and so I would want that more than anything. Yeah,
no, mate, I agree on that. I mean, in terms of the targets this season, obviously you got a trophy last season, which was great. I mean, you'd love another one this season. What's more important, another trophy or getting back-to-back Champions League seasons? I know for the club, it's probably going to be Champions League in terms of the revenue and what that does, and in terms of, you know, it establishes you a bit more as a regular Champions League side. But then once you've had a taste of success with silverware, you want more and more. I mean, are you pretty clear in your mind what would be what the main target is, or is it quite difficult?
Yeah, that's a hard question to answer. I am clear in my mind in terms of what I want for Newcastle, but like when you're dangling a potential of a trophy there, you can't turn it down. Like, look, I was there up in Newcastle for the celebrations for the trophy parade.
Yeah,
I never thought I'd experience, and it was like one of those for me. I know, obviously, you Chelsea boys and girls, you've experienced many a trophy lift over the years, but for me, it's not.
I mean, not domestically for a while, to be fair.
Yeah, you've had your fair share. Certainly,
we've had the World Champions Trophy. Yeah,
you've had a number of trophy lifts over the last, well, let's say like 20 years.
Yeah.
A lot of trophies, and this is my first one in my lifetime, and
it's mad.
We all really enjoyed it. But like you said, I think Eddie Howe said it as well. Like, he's hungry for more, he wants more, but for the club and for Newcastle and in our club to be long-term, sustainably fighting alongside you boys and others at the top end of the table, we have to get back-to-back Champions League. For the money that it generates for the club in terms of revenue, Like we hold the most revenue, and there's, I believe, come January when the books come out again, I think we will be the first club outside the top 6 to be potentially be recording the best part of 400 million in revenue, which no club outside of the top 6 has been able to generate that amount at any point. Like that will be the closest anyone's ever got to getting in touching distance with the top 6 in terms of money that they generate. So that for me is a big step, and that shows the progression that we're on, that we're moving in the right direction. Now, if we go this season and put Champions League on the table again, the revenue that's going to be able to command on top of what we've already generated, it puts us right at the table. It puts us right there. And that means that we've got long-term sustainability. That means with the revenues that we're getting in, new sponsorships, bigger sponsorships, more money, that just means that we can hang around near that top for a lot longer. It means we can pay more in wages. It means we can sign more players of a higher ilk. And it just means that we're fighting at that top table longer. So I need that Champions League. Of course, no one's going to turn down the trophy, but I need that Champions League again.
Mate, how do you see the battle for the Champions League going? Obviously, last season it was pretty tight. You know, ourselves, you, Villa, I mean, even Forest to an extent as well. It went to the final day. I mean, you've got Man United to thank, really, for getting into the Champions League, you know, last season. Because if Villa could have just got a point, then you boys would be playing Europa League football. Do you see it being that tight again? Do you think, you know, the same teams? Do you feel like, you know, it's going to be, you know, yourselves, Villa? I think Spurs will be in the mix this season as well. That sort of 5th, 6th, 7th place. And with Chelsea, do you see us being involved in that battle, or do you sort of see it being like the top 3 kind of City, Arsenal, Liverpool, whatever order, and then Chelsea sort of on their own a little bit, and then just behind is like a battle for that 5th spot between the likes of yourselves, Villa and Spurs? Or do you think actually some of those teams can challenge us for a 4th spot and put us under pressure and maybe could push us down to a 5th place? How do you see it? I know it's early days still, but what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think you made it. The point you made right at the end there is a good one. Is that it is still early days, so the league hasn't kind of set yet.
No,
I would be looking at around December. You see the league start to kind of form a little bit, and being honest, I would expect it to be where Chelsea are in a comfortable position, fighting up there. I think, as I've said to you before, privately, I think Chelsea will be the ones fighting for 4th spot. That'll be one that you're expecting to take. I think from a Newcastle perspective, I think it'll be us and Spurs maybe fighting out for 5th and 6th. I'm not quite. I want to add Villa to that, but I'm not quite sure on Villa yet. I know that they obviously won at the weekend, but they won against Burnley, and I've just got a feeling they're going to be the whipping boys this season, particularly when they go away from home and they come to.
But they could win Europa League, and that gets them in as well.
Well, that's true. That's true. And so, thinking from the league perspective, I don't know whether they are going to be that team that are going to be fighting there. Haven't seen enough of Villa. They've had a couple of wins, but I haven't seen enough of Villa to think that they're going to sustain that. I think us and Spurs are definitely going to do that. I don't see Forest.
Spurs look all right, don't they? To be fair, so far
they do. They do look well, but then they've had like the odd game. I think they've lost to Bournemouth at home.
The Bournemouth game at home, they were horrendous,
and so like they've got that in their locker. You know, they've got that in their locker. We're you know, we might not have as many wins on the board, but we're proving hard to beat and hard to score against. 5 clean sheets in 7. You know, the only teams that we've conceded against are Liverpool and Arsenal. Yeah, last is 1 and 2. So like you can't really argue that. And to be fair, I think most teams will kind of expect, yeah, if you lost to those 2 teams, okay, fair enough, because they're good sides. But the other teams, the only one other the results that we've had in terms of that, the only result I'd look at is maybe go probably could have won at Leeds. Leeds are difficult at their ground, but we probably could have won there if we'd have had a striker. But we had no Isaac. Voltemeda was just signed but wasn't available. Wiesa wasn't signed at that point. He signed like a day or 2 later. So like if we'd have had a striker, if we'd have had Baltimore there, I think we have Leeds next.
Yeah, I think even when you look, I think even if you looked at the Villa game at the opening day of the season, like if you'd had I know it's ifs and buts and football don't work like that, but you probably would win that. You probably would have won that game as well. Villa defending with 10 men for the last half hour, whatever it was. But like, I think a lot of teams can do that. I think, I could sit here and say we should be joint top of the league or 3 points clear, because we should have got 2 extra points against Brentford. We couldn't defend the long throw in the last minute. We were in control against Brighton. Stupid red card, throw the game away. So you're looking there, 5 extra points from those 2 games, and you're joint top. And not to mention that we probably should have at least got 1 point from the United game, if not 3. We didn't, do what we did. So it's weird how kind of narrative can change so quickly. But before that Liverpool win, it was like, oh my God, we've lost 2 league games on the spin. Is the manager good enough? Should the manager still be here? And now it's like, oh, okay, we've beaten Liverpool. Let's kind of push on and go again. It's the narratives can change so quick. The race can change so quick. You get a couple of wins, suddenly you move up, particularly at this stage of the season, you move up like so many positions so quickly. But it's also important. You need to keep touch as well, given the fact that, it was matter of points, goal difference, etc. last season. Even at an early stage of the campaign, you don't want to get yourself cast adrift from those teams that you're going to be competing with. But I mean, mate, what have you made of Chelsea? I know we speak a lot about Chelsea on like panel shows and that and whatnot, but what have you made of the start to the season? We've got 3 wins from 7. It's only 1 more win than what you've managed, with 5 points off the top. From what you've seen of Chelsea, you've been impressed, disappointed, and kind of what are you expecting from us this season?
Yeah, I think it's been a bit of a mixed bag for Chelsea, to be honest. I thought you had a good summer. I thought you spent a lot of money. I thought you brought a lot of players, but there was a lot of potential there that was bought, and a lot of like names that a lot of clubs in Europe were looking at that you've picked out. I mean, look, João Pedro was one that we were looking at, and I think he's going to be a really good signing. Liam Delap's injured, but I think everyone was excited about the potential of him coming to one of
so many clubs were looking at the Prem clubs. So many were in for him.
And so to get him 30 million is a great deal. So like you've invested well. Of course, like we won't get into that goalkeeper situation in centre.
No point.
You could have and you should have improved on those areas. But you made good investments. But it's been a bit of a mixed bag. What I will say and probably focus on, because obviously you had the red cards, Man United, Brighton. I think Brighton at home.
Yeah, Brighton as well. Yeah,
sent off as well. So you've had those difficult games, but I think that game against Liverpool will be potentially your kickstart to the season and really kick it off. Just because to beat the champions, to beat them the way you did, is only going to build your confidence. I think in going into this season. And as I said to you, like I genuinely thought that you had a good enough squad to be fighting for at least the 3rd position and see in that conversation. That might still happen if you can put a decent run together. But I think you guys are a shoo-in for top 4. I would expect you to get for top 4. I don't think we're going to fight you for top 4. I think it'll be us. 5th is probably our highest point this season, and we'll fight it out with Spurs, which I'm fine with as long as we get Champions League. But I think that should be your target. However, expectations with Chelsea Football Club will always double and escalate because of what you've done previously for the club that you are and the stature that you are. This is part of the rebuild. You've got a trophy behind you. Maresca's put a couple of trophies in the cabinet. He's built a nice team. He's spent quite a lot of money. It is going to get to the point that if you finish, say, 4th this season, play Champions League again next season, they're going to want something bigger. There
does need to be more. And this is like when you sort of see things coming out like, the targets are basically the same as what they were last season. I sort of feel like it's a little bit lacking ambition. I'm not saying that the target should be, we need to go and win the Premier League, but to just get Champions League again and look to win a cup, it's almost like, well, we need to be doing more than that. We need to be pushing on. And like, I'm not saying we need to go and win the Premier League. I mean, I'd love to win the Premier League, but we're not ready to do that. We're not good enough to do that. We haven't got the consistency over 38 games to go and do that. But I want to be looking at, we finished 15 points behind Liverpool last season, a Liverpool side that weren't challenged whatsoever throughout the season. Could have easily, if they were challenged, that gap could have easily been 20 or 25 points if they had to win games and whatnot towards the end of the season. But I just see the business that we've done. Okay, look, Joao Pedro's a good signing. You've signed players with potential, but they're not good enough to perform to the level required right now. And you look at what that is compared to a Liverpool, a Man City and an Arsenal, the players that they're bringing in. Arsenal bringing in what I would describe as win now players. Gyökeres 27, Eze 27. That's not an investment for the future. That's an investment saying, right, this is it. This is our final roll of the dice. We're signing these players because we need to win right now. They're not signed to win in a couple of years' time. With Chelsea, it's like all the players really are signed with a view to being successful in the long term, rather than signing players, right, this guy's coming right now and he's going to make a big difference now, and we're signed to win. We've shown that we can beat anyone in a one-off game. We've shown that we can string together a run of 7-8 games to win competitions. But when you need that week in, week out consistency in the Premier League, when you've got too many players who might be good one week and then shit the next week, that's not going to cut it, unfortunately. And like, it's weird because I was chatting with Roms earlier. You go through the team, right? Okay, goalkeeper and centre back's not good enough, but you look at Reece James and Cucurella. Probably, I don't think it's outrageous to say that is the best fullback pairing in the league in terms of a left and a right back right now on form. I don't look at any other top teams that have got better than that in the Premier League. I don't think that's an outrageous thing to say. Certainly in the top 2 or 3, I think that's pretty fair. Yeah. You move forward into the midfield, and we can discuss midfield in a bit more depth. But you've got Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, Lavia, Cole Palmer. Like that's up there with some of the best in the Premier League. Problem you've got is centre backs and goalkeeper not at the standard required. And then other than Cole Palmer, there's good players in attack, but there's not players that are going to elevate you to that next level. I look at Joao Pedro. I like him. He's going to be great. Look at a Delap, good striker, but this is just his first season at a big club, just his second season in the Premier League. Pedro Neto is a great player. Loads of big clubs looked at him when he was at Wolves. But again, he doesn't get an awful lot of end products. For as good as he is and what he does, which is important to the team, there's not an awful lot of output from him. Garnacho and Gittins are work in progress. And you've got the wonder kid Esteval, who's been outstanding so far this season. But again, that's an 18-year-old kid. It's not the finished product, and you shouldn't be putting that much pressure on a player that young to come in and perform for Chelsea for day one. So you sort of look at it and you're just like, every summer or every window that goes by, it's like, Chelsea need 3 or 4 more players. And it's just like, that shouldn't be the case. You shouldn't be saying this every summer, we need 3 or 4 more. And I just find myself sitting at the end of the windows going, I bought some decent players. We're still 3 or 4 short. Like, how is that possible?
The way I look at Chelsea, I mean, look, to answer your first point right at the beginning, is you were talking about your expectations being the same as last season's. I think it's different for Chelsea this year, because last season, even though you had the expectations of top 4, there were still question marks about it because of the other previous 2 seasons where you were really underperforming, and it was almost a question: could Chelsea actually get back to that level? Are they back to that level? I think you were confident that you were, but it was remained to be seen. But you backed that up by getting the job done. I think this season, it's an expectation now that you get at minimum top 4. So I think there's a little bit more pressure added to that. And that is part of the building blocks. That is part of you rebuilding and getting to that point. And it is going to be a little bit slower because of the amount of teams that are fighting there. You've got Liverpool at the top there, Arsenal are building themselves, Man City are trying to rebuild, but you've also got the likes of Newcastle, Tottenham, Villa that are also now fighting. So there's more teams fighting at the table. So it is going to be a little bit of a slower build than it was previously. But to answer your other point about your players that you've signed, I've felt this for quite a while now, good few years, maybe the last 5-6 years, is that Chelsea seem to be very much opportunist. They're a club that is an opportunist, and there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Because you will look at young players, you'll see young players being linked elsewhere, and you'll think, right, okay, let's snap them up now before someone else.
There's nothing wrong with that, but there's a problem with it, mate, when it's every signing.
And that was going to be my additional point.
Yeah.
I haven't got an issue with you signing, or if I was a Chelsea fan, I wouldn't have an issue with signing those.
All clubs should be looking to sign those players, but not every single signing.
But every signing is that. And you need to mix it up. You need to build with a little bit of experience. Like you just talked about with Arsenal. They've got a 27-year-old Gyökeres and a 27-year-old Eze. If you'd have mixed a couple of those signings, so for example, if you hadn't signed Gittins and you hadn't signed one other, like a Delap, say, for example, if you hadn't signed those two players and put them to the side and then went and got and added a Gyökeres and an Eze, instead of those two signings, you've had a monster summer.
Yeah.
So you're talking about potentially like going up there against Liverpool in terms, not necessarily beating Liverpool, but it's that level of summer that you've had because you've added experience, quality, and now, like in the now, signings that are going and are ready to want to win things. And that's really key in that.
Yeah. For me though, mate, I just think like there's such a focus and an orientation on the long term and looking to the future. And I think the future will be great, but there seems to be a neglection on the now. What are we doing to make this team better right now? What are we doing to move ourselves forward right now? What are we doing to make ourselves competitive now? It's easy to go from 12th to 6th and then 6th to 4th. That 4th to competing for the title, winning titles, moving into the top 3. That's really hard. And that's going to take a longer amount of time to get there. But I just think like you've signed some really good players, but then you've still failed to address really key areas. And that's where it becomes frustrating. But I mean, I think an interesting point of discussion is like, is the midfield. I mean, look, Chelsea and Newcastle regarded as having two of the best midfields in the Premier League. I know certainly know like Potts, LB and stuff, you know, big fans of Newcastle's midfield. That three of Joelinton, Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes, very good. You know, one of the best in the league, certainly last season. And it's right up there as a trio. I do feel that we've got some of the best options in the league in terms of Enzo, Caicedo, Romeo Lavia. I mean, there's a lot of talk about Moises Caicedo at the moment. It feels like finally the wider football media are actually realizing this guy's actually pretty good. And it's taken them sort of a year to realize that. This guy was outstanding last season. He's been brilliant this season. I think, and it's a thing that I think, I don't mean people on YouTube, but I mean like the media in general need to be better at, is that if a team's not doing well, that doesn't mean that there's not standout performers in it. And I just feel like if you're playing really well in a struggling team, you don't get the credit you deserve because your team's not doing well on the whole. You're not winning trophies. I feel like now that he's got a couple of trophies in the bag and he's played well in both finals, that's elevated his recognition a little bit and his standing. But mate, where do you stand on Caicedo? There's a lot of like, oh, is he better than Rice? Is he this? Is he that? You know, is he the best midfielder in the Premier League right now? I mean, what are your thoughts on him? And do you think at this point in time on current form that he is the best in the league? Or do you think a Rice is better? Do you think one of your lads is better? I mean, what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I think he's definitely up there. He's definitely up there as one of the best. He's had a superb start to the season. And to be fair, he was doing this last season. Like I remember talking to you about it. I mean, we beat you at our place last season, but he was fantastic.
Well, when we were down to 10 men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he, like in that second half, he nearly dragged you guys on his own back into the game. Like that, and that's like crediting himself because the rest of the team weren't really performing, but he was, and he looked brilliant. But he'd been doing it. Like he is one of those players that will give you a steady 7-8 every game. Like he'll always give you those top quality performances. But it seems like now this season, he's turning those 7s and 8s into 8s and 9s. He's putting in man of the match performances on a regular basis, and that can't be sniffed at. I would put him in as probably one of, if not the best performing. I'll probably put him in as best performing midfielder this season. I think I'd be really hard pushed to have anybody else that kind of topples him. I would certainly have Sandro Tonali in that conversation.
Yeah.
I think Sandro Tonali he's very similar. Constant 7-8 performances every game. He always up there as one of the best performers on the pitch, whatever game he's playing in. You know, even in games that we've lost against Arsenal, Liverpool, he's still been outstanding. Like, he's still been brilliant. And that doesn't mean he's a bad player because he's on a losing side, like you mentioned before. Like, he's still quality. So I would rival him up there, and I'd put Declan Rice up there. And I don't know what order I'd have. But with Rice and Tonali, I'd probably have Tonali above him. For me, I know we touched on it on our show as well yesterday, but I'd probably have Caicedo, Tonali, and then Rice or Gravenberch next. After that, I think our two midfielders are definitely 1 and 2 in the top performing midfielders in the Premier League this season. And as you've mentioned as well, you've got a good selection of midfielders there to play in your midfield. You talked about the likes of Enzo and Lavia as well, and you know you've got Cole Palmer that plays probably just in front of them a little bit. And we're the same. You know, we've got obviously Bruno. Bruno's had some fantastic performances. He's had 1 or 2 drop-offs, but he was brilliant on Sunday against Forest. We've got Joe Linton. Joe Linton probably has had a little bit of a mixed bag start to the season. He's had some big games. He's had some games where he hasn't quite turned up. But when he's on his form, that he's that guy. And then I'd add Jacob Ramsey into that.
Is he injured again?
Yeah. Well, no, he's fit now. He's back.
He's fit now.
But they were going to put him in the squad on Sunday, but they've decided to just kind of manage him a little bit more, get 2 weeks of training to him, and then he's ready for Brighton. I would put him in as the fourth alternative. Because the small sample size I've seen of him in a Newcastle shirt, I've liked what I've seen. Like when he got injured against Leeds, he was actually playing really well in that game. And it was a horrible tackle in the first half, and then he never recovered from it. I think he came off at half time, and then he's been injured ever since. It was like a really bad tackle, but he was playing some brilliant stuff in that first half, and he looks a player. And I think when he gets his feet under the table, I think he will add an additional dimension to our midfield because he's different to Joe Linton. He's a technical player. He likes to get on the board. He'll make runs in and behind. He likes to score goals or certainly get into goal scoring positions. And I think he offers something different to Joe Linton, and I think he'll be preferred. So you're looking at both midfielders. They've got strong options there. And I think our midfields are up there probably, in my opinion.
Probably in the top 2 or 3 in the league. Do you know what? I'll get onto your midfield in a bit more depth shortly, but I think people don't. There's this sort of narrative that goes around that Caicedo is not particularly good at passing or he's not particularly good on the ball. I'm just like, if you see some of the passing that he does or his range of passing, it's ridiculous. Like he is very, very good on the ball. I just feel like, I mean, it's the problem with the social media age, isn't it? It's constant comparing. It's not like, why can't you just appreciate both players? There's always one's got to be better than the other. But just on Lavia, mate, like he's obviously, we've been blessed with, like sort of SCN, Makalele's, Kante's, Caicedo, and now Lavia as well. Like this guy's obviously 3rd season now, and he's constantly been injured. But he's one of those players. And I don't know if you've had any at Newcastle, but one of these guys that even though they're out for ages, from the first minute they're back on that pitch, they're instantly at the level, like they've not been away. I haven't seen a player like Lavia in terms of being so good in that first phase of play, receiving the ball, beating the initial press, playing the ball, forwards. I've not seen a midfielder as press resistant as him. If he can stay fit, I'm not saying this guy's like as good as Caicedo or he's on those levels, but this guy is got all the ability to be one of the best midfielders in the Premier League and one of the best midfielders in world football. He's honestly, the ability he's got outstanding. And to just come back after so long out, a big game against Liverpool and just come in and just bang at the level straight away.
Yeah. It's a really unique skill or attribute to have. I remember going back into the early 2000, 2003, 2004. We had Kieran Dyer that was like that.
Dyer was always injured, wasn't he?
He was always injured, but like he needed 0 time to come back. Like you could put him straight in after a 2-3 months injury, and he'll play like he's been playing for for weeks. Like, he had a real unique skill to be able to do that. Gary Speed was similar. God bless him, back in the day when he played for Newcastle. It's a really unique skill for someone like Lavia to have, where he can just come back in and just slot straight in and feel like he's not been away. I do worry about him. The ability and the quality is not in question. I saw that even when he played for Southampton. The season we got Champions League, I was there. I was watching him, and he destroyed our midfield. He destroyed it in 45 minutes. Like, you can see the quality. So that's without question. But for me, the injuries will catch up with you if you keep getting them. And it doesn't matter about ability. You look at Jack Wilshere, for example, had all the ability in the world, but the injury just caught up with him, and he ended up having to retire so early. And I hope that's not the same. I hope that's not the case for Lavia, but he has to have now a sustained period. Like, I'm not talking about a month or two. I'm talking about, we need to see Lavia be involved and fit and available for between now and the end of the season, to really get a proper sample size of whether he is the Caicedo level, because ability wise there's no question of it, but he needs to put those performances in. He needs to get those match numbers up on a level where he's consistently playing, because I think if he's fit and he's consistently available, I think he starts.
Mate, there's no doubt. In the games that he played for us last season, right? There's no doubt the ones that he started, we were a better team. Like, I don't know how they're going to fit him in, but Chelsea's best team has to have a space for Romeo Lavia in it. Like, it just has to. And it also massively helps Enzo Fernandez as well. If Palmer's out injured or whatever, and Enzo is pushed further up, having a Lavia and Caicedo behind him is so beneficial, because, you know, he doesn't have to do as much defensive work. And it's also beneficial for the centre-backs as well. We haven't got the best centre-backs. We've got a lot of injuries at the back. Having those two in front, it doesn't half make a difference. I mean, on Saturday, we finished the game. We had to play about 35 minutes with Reece James and Jarell Hatto at centre-back. And initially I was a bit concerned. And then I was like, it's okay. We've got Lavia and Caicedo in front of that back line. Not much is going to be getting through there. So, yeah, look, Lavia needs to stay fit 100%. It's his third season now. He's not played. I mean, I don't even think he's managed 15 league games in a season for us yet. But one thing I would say is Maresca's got James fit again and firing, you know, and James has been fit now since January, which I know doesn't sound like much, but for a player that's had so many injuries, that's massive. Fofana's back fit again now and playing football. Obviously, I know he's missed the last 3 games, but that's because he got concussed by Jorgensen, who punched him in the head, which is so stupid.
I love Fofana. I think he's quality. Obviously, being based in Leicester and watching him playing for Leicester, and just how
he was so good for Leicester, yeah.
Just like, he's come to Chelsea, he's had good performances, but he's not really hit that height, and he's still relatively young as well. So, like, he's one that you really need to kind of get back up to speed. Like, the problem with him is the injuries he's had have all been bad ones.
Right, the ACL, broken leg at Leicester. But you know what's mad though, mate? Like, he's so good, right? And his ability is not in doubt. He's in his 4th year with us now. He hasn't even played 50 games for us. And this is his 4th season, and you're almost like, oh, this guy's good, but you're not really sure what level he's going to get back to. You know, can he get back to the level that he was showing at the start of last season, where he was partnering Levi Cole, and that partnership looked like there were signs of something being really good there. And now, you know, he's been injured, but he's another one that comes back. All right, he's not quite like Lavia, or he comes back and he's on it straight away, but he needs to do 1 or 2 games and then he's sort of back into the flow. But I still maintain Wesley Fofana, when he's fit and playing his best, which admittedly is not often at the moment, he is our best centre back.
100%. Like, do you think though, if this continues and it is very much still stop-start, do you think the club will bite the bullet and just kind of catch in on
it? Mate, if he doesn't, honestly, I feel now, if he doesn't have a season where he's available for the majority of it, he'll be sold in the summer. Because that's
contract.
Well, when did he sign? This was 3 and a bit years ago.
Years already,
mate. This is his 4th year at the club now. Start of his 4th season. So I imagine he's got maybe 2 or 3 years left on his deal. maybe 3 years. I would have thought he might have signed 6 years when he joined.
2029. I've just had a look. 2029.
Oh, he's still got ages on his contract then.
Jesus.
Yeah. So, but look, I do strongly think that he will be sold at the end of the season if it's another season where he gives us like 10 games. You just can't. You can put up with that for maybe a couple of seasons, but if you get into 4 seasons and a guy's not played 50 games for you yet, then you do need to move him on. However, when you've had an injury, if you've got an injury history like that, you're going to struggle to find a lot of takers with that injury history. Or you might find takers, but you're going to get nowhere near the money that you would expect to get.
You're 100% taking a hit on him. Like, you're getting nowhere near. You probably wouldn't even get half of what you paid for him. Which is
I reckon at best, mate, you an absolute push max. I reckon you could get 40 million.
Yeah. That was the number I was thinking as well. And that's at max. And that's the problem with that situation. Do you take the hit on him and start again? All depends on if there's a centre back out there that you desperately after.
Mate, that market's not good right now, is it? Either. Like,
no,
I mean, you've got Malik Chow, which is actually looking like a decent signing. But in terms of like top centre backs, even like a huge club, and you're looking to go and get like a Van Dijk type defender. You look at all the big clubs, right? There's no one's selling their top centre backs, so you're sort of having to think, who are the next centre backs? I mean, the most obvious one is like Mark Gurhey in terms of availability and like sort of consistency in the league. But in terms of the world class centre backs, the market's not great.
No, there's not. Again, you look into a market where you're looking at young centre backs.
Yeah,
like. You're looking at Antonio Silva, for example.
Mate, I watched him on Tuesday last week, right, in a Champions League when we played Benfica at Stamford Bridge. The guy's very good.
Yeah, he's quite, and I know we've been looking at him for quite a while, but obviously our situation is pretty sorted now. We were also linked with heavily Giorgio Scalvini. Atalanta.
Mate, he was really promising. Didn't he had quite a bad injury, didn't he? And then I don't know if it's fully been the same since. He's back now, but
yeah, he came back. He came back earlier than anticipated. But what then happened? The turn of 2025, he then got a shoulder injury and was out for a couple of months. But he's back fit now and he's been fit for a while. And I think he had a good pre-season because we were heavily linked with him, and it looked like we were going to put in. It was linked that it was rumored that we put a bid in, and it was rumored that we were going to actually put an official bid in and go for him. But then Atalanta just turned around and said, "No, we're keeping him because he's too valuable." He's only 21, and he's got the world at his feet.
Hey, do you know there's another one that I think you boys might have looked at him if I remember correctly. There's the lad at Club Bruges, Joel Adonez.
Yes.
He's one that is now I'm seeing is starting to get mentioned with a lot of the top teams in Europe again. But you're right though. Like you are looking at the young centre backs. There's not many centre backs, top class. I want to go and sign someone that's 26, 27. It's got like some experience behind them. There's not very many of them. You're in that 22, sort of 21 to 24 age range.
I can see that is a typical Chelsea signing.
Oh man, it's got us written all over it. Yeah,
that is like 35 million, Joe Adonez to Chelsea. That's classic Chelsea.
It is.
As soon as you said that, I was like, how have I not even realised that?
Have you looked at him, or I just imagined that?
Yeah, we did.
I thought you did. Yeah, I thought you had.
We've had links with him for the past 3 windows. Like, so the window when we were looking at Mark Gay, we were linked with him quite heavily there, as well as Matt. But that summer, it was more about Malik Chow. We were really heavily linked to them, and it was like we were ready to bid. But then Malik Chow decided to stay because obviously they were in Champions League, which was fine. We then went on to Gay. January, we looked at Joel Adonez, and then again in the summer, he was another option too. So we're sorted at centre back now. Like, Shaw will probably sign a new contract.
Yeah.
Malik Chow and Botman, we look at.
And you've got Byrne as well.
We've got Byrne, and we've got Lascelles. We've got 5 centre backs. Lascelles will go tomorrow. on a free. But we've got 4 centre backs there that we will roll out again for another season.
So I guess, mate, just quick question: do you, I suppose, are you not that fussed now about missing out on Gurhey, or do you still wish you'd got him?
Look, I rate Mark Gay, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not overly fussed by it. The one thing I'll say is that there are good top young centre backs that you can go out there and get at a decent price, and I do think that. I mean, I'm just absolutely delighted we didn't pay 70 million for him, because he just wasn't worth 70 million.
Yeah,
glad that we didn't do that. But I'm really happy with our centre backs now. Botman's back fit after his ACL. He looks on top form. Malik Chow just looks an absolute monster. We've got Byrne and Shaw as experience. I've got no reason to complain. I've got no issues with Mark Gay. I think he's a top centre back. I think he'll end up at Liverpool anyway. But I think I'll be honest with you, Charlie. I'm shocked that you haven't gone back in for him,
mate. We should have got. Mate, I bang on about this all summer, right? And so many people in my chat were like, "Oh, this guy's average. He's this, he's that. He's too short." I was like, guys,
he's your guy.
Have you not seen we are lacking centre backs? We need a centre back. He knows the club inside out. I suspect that we probably did try, and he wasn't up for it. And so, you know, the classic: you try, they're not up for it, and then you just pretend that you weren't interested. It's one of them. We for sure. I refuse to believe that we would be that stupid not to even speak to him. We tried to get him in the January when we recalled Chalobah. We tried to initially get Gurhey in January, but we obviously couldn't get him. But mate, it just felt like it was just a no-brainer, and that's why I'm surprised that Liverpool literally had all summer to get him, and they decided to wait until deadline day. If you need to pay, agreed 35 mil. If you had to pay 10 mil more, that's going to be fine, because now Liverpool are in a situation where they got Konate and Van Dijk. That Leone they signed is out for the season, and Joe Gomez is constantly injured. So they're one centre-back injury away from being in big trouble. You just wonder, well, why didn't they go and get Gurhey? But yeah, he'll go in January, or he'll go on a free in the summer.
I think he might go. I think Liverpool might now push and push the boat out and get that deal done in January. But obviously they were so close to it on deadline day. I think that deal will be one of the deals.
Oh, mate, there was a leaked video of him doing his goodbye Palace video. That was leaked, and like, mate, he'd done the medical and everything. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. Mate, last question I wanted to ask you. We touched on him earlier, Tonali. He obviously come in for big money from Milan, a couple of 2-3 years ago now, whatever it was. Difficult settling in period, then the ban, club stuck by him. Are you surprised at how well he's done? What are you putting behind his turnaround? Because now, you know, he is one of the best midfield players in the Premier League. Are you surprised at his form? Are you surprised that he's showing this level? And yeah, what's kind of changed for him?
Am I surprised? No, not at all. See, this is the thing with Sandro Tonali, and that's I've always had this mindset, is that for people in the Premier League, it's almost like he's almost like a new sensation. But for me, I watched him at AC Milan.
It was cost Milan, wasn't he?
What he's doing at Newcastle, he was doing at AC Milan. Like, there's no difference. Like the season that we signed him, the summer that we signed him, he took AC Milan to the Champions League semi-finals and only just missed out on getting to the Champions League final. Like in the second leg. And for both of those games, he was superb. Like, he was one of the best players on the pitch. Like, how we signed him for 55 million, I've got no idea. Like,
looking like a bargain now, that, isn't it?
Yeah, and it is. And maybe AC Milan knew about the betting stuff. Maybe they did. I don't know from that perspective. But what I will say is that, like, Sandro Tonali, I think in the early form, just before the betting stuff came out, I think that was a player. I mean, he had a great game in his debut against Villa, and then he kind of just dropped off. And I think that was the personal stuff affecting his game. I think now he's had almost like a full season to get over his ban. He learned English. He's settled and integrated into Newcastle and with his teammates. He was then able to hit the ground running. And what you're seeing now is a very settled, motivated player that's playing at the top of his game. and just looks like an absolute beast in midfield. He just looks so good. So I'm not surprised by it. I actually think there's levels to his game. I think there's another level or two that he can hit.
How old is he? Is he what, mid-20s, is he, or younger?
Yeah. I think he's just not long turned 25.
Okay.
So he's got time on his hands, and I think he's got another 2.5 years left on his contract. I think we're currently in talks with him with a new contract, along with Botman and Tino. And he's a priority for me. Him, Botman, and Tino. They're 3 contracts that have to be nailed down. Like they need.
Mate, do you think he's? I don't say do you think he's better than Bruno at the moment? Do you think he's your most important midfield player? Like, if you had to be with who do you think you could least afford to be without in that midfield 3? I mean, obviously, probably say Joelinton, but is Tonali becoming as important as Bruno or more important?
I think if you ask the most Newcastle United fans, and I agree with this point, I would say Sandro Tonali is more important to this midfield.
Yeah,
he just knits everything together. He's absolutely crucial. So, for example, we played away at Bournemouth, who were flying, by the way, and we drew 0-0.
I swear Newcastle Bournemouth's always 0-0.
Or it's 0-0 or 1-0. Like it's very ready. It's never a high scoring game. But we rested Bruno and Joelinton. Neither of them played, and we had Sandro Tonali in the middle. We had Miley and Willock, and the midfield. It wasn't as dynamic, maybe, but it looked just as solid and strong. And the reason being is because it was Sandro Tonali. I don't think it would have looked as strong if we'd have took Sandro Tonali out and put either one of Bruno or Joelinton in. It would not look anywhere near the same. I think he's so crucial. The big changing point for Sandro Tonali is moving him from an 8 to a 6. So when we started playing him, when he first signed, he was playing on the right-hand side as an 8, and we had Bruno in the 6. And Eddie Howe was reluctant to change it. Last season, when he made that change, it completely revolutionized the midfield. And that's why people were talking about it as one of the best in the league. And that was the big change, is moving him to a 6. Bruno on the right, which meant he could get forward and knit those connections and those passes through to the likes of Murphy, Isaac, Trippier, whoever. That was the big change. It's been a godsend for Newcastle United, and so is Sandro. He's an elite footballer, and we are very, very lucky to have him. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, no, certainly getting the benefits from it. And yeah, I agree with you, mate. When you get to 2 years at the end of the season, there'll be people sniffing. That contract's got to be, as you said, that's got to be tied up, because big clubs will be looking at that. 2 years left. That's the point where if someone don't want to sign a new deal, you have to sell him. Otherwise, you're getting next to nothing for him. But yeah, we'll round out there. Guys, big up to everyone that's tuned in. Big up to everyone in the chat. Great show as always. Pete, great to catch up, mate. Let the people know where they can find you if they don't know.
Yeah, Load of Mag NFC. You can see it above us, or above my screen. Come and subscribe. Come and join us. We talk Newcastle United, but we also talk all things football as well. As Charlie will know, he's one of our guests on a regular on Top Table Talk on a Tuesday night. Come and join us, subscribe, hit the notification bell on both channels so you keep up to date with all things Newcastle United. We've got some content coming up either later on this week or early next week. We've got a couple of big guests coming on with regards to Newcastle talk, just assessing the season, and then we'll be getting into the big game against Brighton for next week on Saturday. So
massive.
A lot of content coming up. Keep in touch. But top man, Charlie, thanks for inviting me on.
Always a pleasure, mate. Yeah, guys, make sure you check it out. Channel is tagged in the title. Go and show the guys some love over there. Loads of great content. Please do smash the likes on your way out. Subscribe if you're new around here. I'll be back again tomorrow, guys. Until then, enjoy the rest of your evening. And as always, up the Chelsea.